pain. Sharp burning radiating from my stomach like wildfire. I gasped, my hands clutching my belly, the only shield between my unborn child and the force that had just slammed into me, my mother's heel. The very woman who was supposed to protect me, who was supposed to love me. Linda stood above me, her expression unreadable, no regret, no hesitation, just cold, unwavering contempt. Why did it have to be you first? Her voice, usually masked in fake sweetness when others were around, was now stripped bare, pure venom. I tried to breathe, tried to move, but the pain was unbearable. My vision blurred, nausea clawing at my throat. I thought of my baby, tiny and fragile, still growing inside me. Had I just lost them? A scream shattered the air. Not mine, Isabella's. My sister stood frozen in the doorway, eyes wide in horror. The tray of tea she had been carrying slipped from her hands, porcelain shattering against the hardwood floor. "Mom, what the hell did you just do?" For a moment, the room was silent, except for the sound of my own ragged breathing. Then Linda spoke again, her voice eerily calm. "She'll be fine. Stop being so dramatic, Isabella. She bumped into the dresser, that's all." The casual dismissal sent a new wave of rage through me, pushing past the pain. My mother had just kicked me in the stomach, knowing full well I was pregnant, and she was acting like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. He had stepped outside to take a work call minutes before I gave them the news, before I stupidly, foolishly thought for 1 second that my mother would react like a normal human being. Then everything began to spin. My head tilted back, and the last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me whole was Isabella rushing toward me, screaming for someone to call an ambulance. I should have known better than to hope. I gripped Nathan's hand as we stood outside my childhood home, the old white colonial house looking as pristine as ever. Like something straight out of a Better Homes and Gardens cover. But to me it had never been home. Home was where you felt safe. I had never been safe here. Nathan squeezed my hand gently, grounding me. His presence was the only thing keeping me from turning around and leaving before this disaster even started. "You don't have to do this," he murmured, eyes full of understanding. I did. Not for me, but for the child growing inside me. "I just need to try," I said, exhaling slowly. "Maybe this time, maybe she'll—" I didn't finish the sentence. The words tasted like lies on my tongue. The door swung open before I could knock. "Isabella!" "Evelyn," she gasped, her face lighting up. She pulled me into a tight hug before I could react. I stiffened, the warmth foreign. "It's been so long," she said, stepping back and eyeing my belly. And, "Oh my God, is this?" I nodded, suddenly feeling vulnerable. "I'm pregnant," Isabella squealed, clapping her hands together. "Oh, Evie, that's amazing. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Because I had barely heard from her in 2 years. Because she had been the golden child, my mother's perfect little doll, while I was the one shoved into the shadows. Because part of me had always wondered if she had noticed how differently I had been treated and chosen to ignore it. Come in," she said, stepping aside. Nathan and I walked through the doorway, and there she was, Linda. She was standing by the grand staircase, her manicured hands folded neatly in front of her. She was dressed in her usual beige and pearls, her blonde hair swept into an effortless updo that screamed perfection. Her face was carefully composed, but I saw it the moment her eyes flicked down to my belly and hardened. A tight smile formed on her lips. "Well, this is unexpected. Not congratulations, not I'm happy for you, just unexpected." Nathan extended his hand. "It's good to see you, Mrs. Carter." Her smile widened, becoming something more performative. She shook his hand, then turned to me. "You should have called ahead. I don't have anything prepared." Translation: I wasn't expecting to have to pretend to care about you today. "We won't stay long," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "I just wanted to tell you in person." She studied me for a long moment before nodding toward the living room. "Well, let's not stand around in the doorway." We sat. Isabella buzzed with excitement beside me, already talking about baby names and nursery ideas, but Linda was silent. Then, when Nathan excused himself to take a call and Isabella left for the kitchen, it happened. The air between us grew heavier, suffocating. Linda leaned forward, her voice dropping to an icy whisper. "Why did it have to be you first?" I blinked. "What?" "Isabella should have been the one to give me my first grandchild, not you." It wasn't just anger in her tone, it was disappointment. Like my pregnancy was some inconvenience. I felt my hands tighten into fists. "You can't be serious," she scoffed. "You? A mother? You barely made it through high school. You ran off with some IT guy like some desperate stray, and now you think you're ready to raise a child?" My chest tightened. I had heard it all before, but this time was different. She wasn't just tearing me down, she was tearing my child down. I stood up. I don't need your approval, Mom. I came here hoping that maybe, just maybe, you'd be happy for me. But I see now that was a mistake. I turned to leave, but before I could take a step, she grabbed my wrist. You need to end it, I yanked my arm away, heart hammering in my chest. What? Her eyes were dead, lifeless. Isabella's getting engaged soon. Her fiancé wants kids. If you have this baby first, it'll ruin everything. I felt the blood drain from my face. You're out of your damn mind, I whispered. She smirked. Think about it. No one wants a second-hand grandchild. Isabella's child should be first. That's how it should be. And then, the kick, the pain, the world spun, and the last thing I saw before my knees hit the floor was her face, cold, unfeeling, like she had just stepped on an insect. Then, Isabella's scream. Then nothing. Now, as I lay in this hospital bed, my unborn child still miraculously safe inside me, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. Linda Carter had spent 25 years making me feel like I was nothing, but she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. I woke up to the steady beeping of hospital monitors and the sterile scent of antiseptic. My throat was dry, my body heavy, but the sharpest pain was in my chest, not from the kick, but from the realization that it had come from my own mother. For a moment, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece everything together. The cold tile floor, the sharp crack of porcelain, Isabella screaming, Nathan's panicked voice, and Linda standing over me like I was a broken object, something disposable. The door creaked open and I turned my head slightly. Nathan. His face was tight with worry, exhaustion darkening the skin under his eyes. He crossed the room in 2 strides, sinking into the chair beside my bed, his fingers immediately reaching for mine. Jesus, Evelyn? His voice was barely a whisper. I squeezed his hand, needing to feel something real. The baby? Still safe, he said, exhaling sharply. Doctors said it was a miracle. You've got a bruised rib and they want to keep you overnight, but the baby's okay. My eyes burned with relief. I placed a hand over my stomach, over the tiny life still fighting inside me, and breathed. Then I heard another voice. Evelyn, Isabella, I turned my head to find her standing hesitantly by the door, clutching a coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her usually perfect blonde waves were a mess, her face blotchy from crying. I should have been angrier. I should have yelled at her, told her she had no right to be here after years of standing by, oblivious to the way Linda had treated me. But I couldn't find the energy. How long? My voice was hoarse, raw, her brows furrowed. What? How long have you known? She flinched, her grip tightening on the cup. I swear, Evelyn, I didn't know it was this bad. I knew she favored me, but I thought she just had a hard time connecting with you. I didn't know she was capable of... She broke off, voice cracking. I watched her carefully. The guilt in her eyes was real, but was it enough? You thought what? I asked, my voice sharper now. That I was just bitter? That I was making it all up? She shook her head quickly. No, I don't know. I thought maybe if I kept things light, if I didn't push, things would fix themselves. A hollow laugh escaped me. Fix themselves? Isabella? She kicked me in the stomach. She wanted me to end my pregnancy because she thought it would ruin your future. This isn't something that fixes itself. Tears welled in her eyes, and she looked down, her shoulders trembling. I'm so sorry. I wanted to believe her, but forgiveness wasn't something I could give. Not yet. Where is she? Nathan stiffened beside me. Isabella's face darkened. She left, she said, after Dad arrived. He lost it, Evie. I've never seen him like that before. He told her she was a monster, that she was unfit to be a mother. He said he was done. Done? She nodded. He's divorcing her. A strange numbness washed over me. Not relief, not sadness, just emptiness. My parents had been together my entire life, and now, because of this, it was over, because of me. Dad wants to see you, Isabella continued hesitantly. If you're up for it. I hesitated. My father had always been distant, detached in a way that made me feel like an afterthought. He had never outright mistreated me, but he had also never stepped in when Linda had. He had let it happen. I don't know, I admitted. Nathan spoke up then, his voice quiet but firm. You don't owe him anything, Evie. If you want to see him, fine. If not, that's fine too. But don't do it because you feel like you have to. I looked at him, at the unwavering love in his eyes, and nodded. I'll think about it. The next morning, after restless sleep and too many nightmares, I finally agreed to let my father in. When he stepped into the room, he looked old, more tired than I had ever seen him. He hesitated before sitting at the edge of my bed, wringing his hands like he didn't know what to do with them. "Evelyn," he started, his voice rough. I stayed silent. He exhaled heavily, running a hand through his graying hair. "I should have stopped it. I should have seen it, but I didn't, and I don't expect you to forgive me for that." I studied him. This was the first time he had ever admitted any fault, the first time he had ever acknowledged what had been happening under his own roof. "Why now?" I asked finally. He let out a bitter laugh. "Because I saw it with my own eyes, and I couldn't deny it anymore." His expression darkened. "When Isabella called me, I didn't believe her at first, but when I walked into that hospital and saw you lying there, God, Evelyn, it was like a punch to the gut." I swallowed hard, my throat thick. "She never loved me," I said quietly. He looked pained, but didn't argue, because he knew it was true. "I can't change the past," he said after a long silence, "but I want to be here now, if you'll let me." I didn't respond, because I didn't know if I could. But a small part of me, one I thought had died long ago, wanted to believe him. That afternoon, a social worker visited my room. "Evelyn Carter?" I nodded, warily. "I was informed about what happened, and I wanted to discuss your options. Given the severity of the incident, you have every right to file charges against your mother for assault." Nathan sat up straighter. "We want to press charges." The social worker nodded. "Understood. We'll also be issuing a restraining order to ensure your safety." The words felt surreal, legal action against my own mother. But as I glanced at Nathan, at Isabella, at the faint rise of my belly, I knew this wasn't just about me anymore. "Do it," I said. It was time to take back control. That night, as I lay awake in my hospital bed, I listened to the soft hum of machines and thought about the past 25 years. I had spent my entire life trying to earn my mother's love, twisting myself into something more palatable, more acceptable. But it had never been enough, and it never would be. I had a family now, a real one. Nathan, my child, maybe even Isabella and my father in time. Linda had lost everything, and for the first time in my life, I felt no need to chase after her. I closed my eyes, exhaling deeply. This was just the beginning. I thought the worst was over. I thought pressing charges, securing a restraining order, and cutting Linda out of my life would finally put an end to the nightmare, but I underestimated her. Because monsters don't just disappear when you close the door, they wait, they fester, and when they come back, they make sure to destroy everything in their path. It started with a phone call. Nathan and I had just come home from the hospital. The air smelled like lavender. He had set up a diffuser in our bedroom, knowing I needed something calming after everything. The weight of exhaustion was pressing down on me, but I was safe. I had survived. The baby had survived. That should have been enough. But then my phone rang. I recognized the number immediately. Blocked caller. My stomach twisted. I shouldn't have answered. I should have ignored it. But a lifetime of conditioning, the desperate, lingering need for my mother's approval, even after she had tried to kill my child, made me press my thumb to the screen. I put the phone to my ear. Silence. Then her voice. "You ungrateful little bitch." I closed my eyes. It took everything in me not to throw the phone across the room. "Mom, you have ruined my life." Her voice was ice cold, edged with something feral. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I gritted my teeth. "You did this to yourself." "No," she spat. "You did this. You turned Isabella against me. You turned your father against me. And for what? A bastard child that shouldn't even exist?" Nathan looked up from across the room, eyes narrowing as he watched me. He knew. He could hear the venom leaking through the phone, even if he couldn't make out the words. "You're disgusting," I said, my voice shaking. Linda laughed, a low, hollow sound. "And you're nothing. You always have been. Do you think any of this will change that?" My fingers tightened around the phone. "Stay away from me," I whispered. "Stay away from my family." "Or what?" she sneered. "You think your pathetic restraining order will stop me?" A sharp knock sounded at the door. Nathan and I both froze. I lowered the phone slowly, my blood turning to ice. My pulse pounded in my ears as I heard Linda's voice again. Soft now, almost amused. "Open the door, sweetheart." The line went dead. Nathan was already moving, pushing me behind him as he grabbed his phone and dialed 911. "She's here," he said into the receiver, voice deadly calm. Linda Carter. There's a restraining order against her. She's at our house right now. Another knock. Louder this time. Then her voice muffled through the door. Evelyn, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Nathan turned, gripping my shoulders. Go upstairs. Lock the bedroom door. Nathan. Go, now. I obeyed. My legs felt like lead as I climbed the stairs, my mind racing. She wouldn't do anything, would she? She wouldn't really. A loud bang echoed through the house, then another. I barely made it to the bedroom before the front door burst open. A scream ripped from my throat as I turned the lock, pressing my back against the door, my entire body trembling. Nathan's voice was sharp downstairs. Leave, Linda. The cops are on their way. A pause, then her voice laced with something sickly sweet. Nathan, you poor, stupid boy. Don't you realize she's using you? I squeezed my eyes shut. She's been playing the victim her whole life. Do you know how exhausting it was to raise her, to look at that ugly little face every day and pretend she was mine? The words shouldn't have hurt. I should have been numb to them by now, but they did. I heard a crash, glass shattering. Then Nathan's voice, furious. Get the hell out of my house. Then, sirens. I barely had time to breathe before I heard the pounding of boots, the sharp command of police officers yelling for Linda to get down on the ground. I waited for her screams, for the struggle, but it never came. Instead, I heard a soft, chilling laugh. This isn't over, Evelyn. Then, silence. Linda was in custody. The police had taken statements, checked the damage. She had shattered the glass coffee table, knocked over a bookshelf. Nothing that couldn't be fixed. Except for me. I sat on the couch, hands clasped over my stomach, trying to shake the feeling that even though she was gone, she still had her claws in me. Nathan knelt in front of me, hands warm on my knees. She's not coming back. I won't let her. I nodded. But deep down, I knew. It would never really be over. Linda pled not guilty. I had expected it, but seeing her in court still made my stomach churn. She looked the same, polished, controlled, the picture of a respectable woman. The only sign that anything was wrong was the tightness around her mouth, the way her nails dug into the table in front of her. The judge read the charges. Assault, violation of a restraining order, breaking and entering. I could feel her gaze on me, even across the room. How do you plead? The judge asked. Linda lifted her chin. Not guilty. A slow rage burned in my chest. She still thought she could win. I looked at the prosecutor, at the detective, at Isabella sitting beside me, holding my hand. We weren't going to let her. Linda Carter was found guilty on all charges. She was sentenced to 2 years in prison. The moment the verdict was read, I felt something snap inside me, a cord that had been strangling me for years finally breaking loose. As they led her away, she turned, her lips parting as if she wanted to say something. But I didn't care. I didn't need to hear it. I had spent my whole life wanting something from her. Love, approval, acknowledgement. Now I wanted nothing. And that was my freedom. I thought watching Linda be led away in handcuffs would bring closure, that seeing her sentence, guilty on all charges, would finally allow me to breathe again. But trauma doesn't work like that. It lingers, it festers. It buries itself so deep inside you that even when the monster is locked away, you still flinch at every shadow. I learned that the hard way. The nightmares didn't stop. Even though she was behind bars, I'd wake up gasping for air, my hand flying to my belly, checking, always checking, as if she could somehow still reach me. The baby kicked one night while I was caught in the haze of a particularly bad dream, and I jolted awake in a full-blown panic, convinced for one horrible second that she had found a way to take everything from me. Nathan held me that night. He didn't speak, just pulled me against him, pressing soft kisses into my hair, whispering that I was safe, that she was gone, that we were free. But it didn't feel that way, because Linda Carter wasn't just a person. She was a presence, a lifetime of damage that wouldn't just fade because a judge slammed a gavel. So I did what I had to do. I made sure she could never haunt me again. The first step was erasing her entirely from my life. It started with the small things, blocking her number. Done. Removing every trace of her existence from my home. Burned the old Christmas cards, shredded the childhood photos where she stood with that fake smile, always too posed, too perfect, as if she had rehearsed loving me in front of a mirror. Nathan helped. So did Isabella. Even my father, who had spent years turning a blind eye, did what he could. He transferred the house deed into my name. He cut off all financial ties to Linda, making sure that when she got out of prison, she'd have nothing to come back to. She had spent decades controlling everyone around her, manipulating them like pieces on a chessboard. Not anymore. The second step was making sure she never touched my child's life, because people like Linda don't change. They wait. I knew that the second she was released, she'd try to slither her way back in, spin some tragic narrative about how she had been wronged, how she had suffered, how she was the real victim. I wouldn't let her. Nathan and I filed for a permanent restraining order, not just against me, but against my unborn child. She would never be allowed to come near us. And when that wasn't enough, I went one step further. The baby was born on an early summer morning with sunlight streaming through the hospital windows. A girl. I had barely managed to whisper her name, Luna, before exhaustion pulled me under. She was beautiful. She was mine. And for the first time, looking into her tiny, perfect face, I understood something. I would never let anyone make her feel the way my mother had made me feel. She would never wonder if she was enough. She would never beg for love from someone who refused to give it. She would never know Linda Carter's name. I didn't realize how much lighter life could feel until I started rebuilding. Isabella moved closer into an apartment a few blocks away. She made up for lost time, doting on Luna like she was the most precious thing in the world. My father retired early. He spent every weekend at our house, rocking Luna in his arms, his tired eyes softer than I had ever seen them. I could still feel the weight of the years he had spent standing on the sidelines, but he was trying, and that was enough. And Nathan? He was my rock, my everything. He had been there through the worst of it, and now, in the quiet moments, when Luna fell asleep against his chest, when he'd catch my eye from across the room and just smile, I knew we had won. Not because Linda was in prison, not because she had lost everything, but because we had built something better in the ashes she left behind. Something real. Linda got out early on good behavior. I knew she would. People like her always find ways to slither through the cracks. She sent a letter. It arrived in a plain envelope, no return address, just my name scrawled in tight, sharp handwriting. Nathan found it in the mailbox before I did. He held it up between two fingers like it was something rotten, his expression unreadable. "Do you want to read it?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. For a moment, I thought about it. Wondered what she had written. An apology? Doubtful. A final attempt to sink her claws in me? More likely. And then, just as quickly, I stopped thinking about it. I took the envelope, walked into the kitchen, and threw it into the fire. Nathan watched me, his lips twitching into the smallest smile. Good choice. I turned to him, exhaling deeply, feeling lighter than I ever had before. She doesn't exist to me anymore. I meant it. Because this was my life now. Luna, Nathan, the family I had built, and Linda Carter, she was just a ghost. One that would never haunt me again. There's a strange kind of silence that comes after a war, a silence so thick, so absolute that at first you don't know what to do with it. That's what it felt like after I burned Linda's letter. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the next blow to land. I wasn't flinching at shadows, bracing for the next cruel word, the next backhanded remark, the next inevitable betrayal. I was free. And yet, part of me still didn't know how to exist in a world where she wasn't looming over me like some inevitable storm. The real weight of it didn't hit me until Luna's first birthday. The house smelled like vanilla cake and fresh flowers, a warmth settling in every corner. Isabella had gone overboard with decorations, pastel balloons tied to every chair, a massive "Happy Birthday, Luna" banner stretched across the living room. Nathan's parents were there, my father too, holding Luna in his arms as she babbled happily, reaching for the silver chain around his neck. And me, I stood there watching them, feeling something foreign rise in my chest, something I had never truly understood before. Peace. I had spent so long surviving, clawing my way out of the wreckage Linda had left behind that I hadn't realized I had finally stepped into something better. This wasn't just a celebration of Luna. It was a funeral for every ugly, twisted thing that had ever made me feel small. For the girl who had begged for scraps of love from a mother incapable of giving it. For the daughter who had waited her entire life for an apology that would never come. For the version of me that still carried Linda Carter's ghost. I wasn't that girl anymore, I was Luna's mother, and I would never let my past touch her. But closure is never clean. Some wounds leave scars so deep they don't fade, they just become part of you. I learned that one evening when Isabella and I sat together after Luna had gone to sleep, the remnants of the birthday party still scattered across the house. Do you ever think about her? Isabella asked softly, nursing a glass of wine, her eyes distant. I didn't have to ask who she meant. No, I lied. She gave me a look. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Sometimes. Me too. She hesitated. I keep wondering if she ever... She stopped herself, shaking her head. If she ever what? Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. If she ever loved us. Even a little. A sharp pain lanced through my chest. Because that was the question, wasn't it? The question that kept people like us awake at night. The question that had haunted me every day of my childhood, creeping into the corners of my mind even after I had sworn to let it go. I don't think she was capable of love, I said finally. Isabella stared at her drink. Then why does it still hurt? I didn't have an answer for that, because it did hurt. In some ugly, unspoken way, it still ached to know that the woman who had brought me into this world had never wanted me in it. But then I thought about Luna, about the way she reached for me when she was scared, about the way she knew, without hesitation, without question, that she was loved. I thought about Nathan, about the family we had built, about the warmth that filled every space where Linda's shadow used to be. It hurts because we're human, I said finally, but we don't have to live in that hurt anymore. Isabella nodded, but I could tell she was still carrying her own ghosts. Maybe she always would. Maybe I would too. But carrying them wasn't the same as letting them own me. The last time I ever heard Lynda Carter's name was 6 years later. Nathan and I had taken Luna to the park, a crisp autumn breeze curling through the trees. She was 5 now, curious, stubborn, bright in ways I hadn't even imagined. She raced ahead of us, her tiny legs pumping as she chased after the falling leaves, her laughter ringing out in the cool evening air. We were happy. We were whole. Then my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Lynda Carter passed away this morning. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then, without a second thought, I deleted the message. I didn't ask how. I didn't ask why. I didn't care. She was gone. And for the first time, I didn't feel anything about it. Not relief, not grief, not anything at all, because I had already buried her. And now I could finally live. That night, as I tucked Luna into bed, she reached for me, her tiny fingers curling around mine. Mommy? Yeah, baby? Are monsters real? I swallowed hard, brushing a stray curl from her face. They used to be, I murmured. But not anymore. She stared at me for a long moment, as if deciding whether or not to believe me. Then, with the unwavering trust only a child could have, she nodded, curling into my arms. I held her close, listening to the soft sound of her breathing, and closed my eyes. For the first time in my life, the monsters were gone, and in their place, there was only love.